What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 40 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Orion Immortal Empires campaign. So as we saw last time, many a ritual was had, culminating in a fight against two full stacks of nothing but giants and rogue idols, which was silly, but it was also fun, and I definitely enjoyed watching Datan's Army of Eternal Guard and such deal with it. We got 2 episodes left, methinks. We got 3 rituals and the final battle at the Oak of Ages, and the ritual that we're doing right now is that one at the Forest of Gloom. Frankly, I hadn't realized it, but I should have taken another read of all of the landmarks, because this is the one that I probably should have done, I don't know, 3 rituals ago, maybe. Hero action success chance plus 10%. We really could have used that on the tech thieves everywhere, but oh well. Anyway, I waited for the couple of turns to pass, so we're ready to fight immediately. It looks like these guys are still willing to bring plenty of rogue idols and giants, but also this time Arachnaroks, a few Doom Divers, some Night Goblin Archers, Black Orcs, a little bit more of a balanced army than we had going against us last time. Plus, this is Daith, and to be fair, and Daith has something of a little bit more balanced army as well, between the single entities of the Eagles and the Glade Captains, plus the Way Watchers here as well. Now let's see how we do against the Gobos / Orcs around the Forest of Gloom, and try to fight both of these fights at once. Close victory, medium casualties, sounds good to me. Let's get to it. Alrighty, to war indeed, and here we go. I'm very curious to see how the Wildwood Rangers and Wardens handle themselves against those big old piles of, well, big old units. Giants, Rogue Idols, and Arachnaroks once again. We're going to start the battle off with those arrows of Kurnos smashing into a single Arachnarok spider with hopefully a decent bit of damage dealt to it. I'm going to drop it down, by the looks of it, about half HP once the last of the arrows of Kurnos hits. The enemy also does have a couple of those Doom Diver catapults available to it, so we have Vanguard deployed all of our infantry, all of our melee infantry, far as we can, and they're going to charge right into the fray immediately to avoid to avoid fire from the enemy. There we go, Wildwood Rangers in the fray, looking pretty fantastic. I do love the way the Wildwood Rangers look in this particular mod, facing off against the enemy Black Orcs with their black armor as well. Oh, looking pretty darn good. And it's Great Axe versus Glaive in the center of the fight. Of course, over on the, well, I guess all along the front line, we got those big old units fighting as well. First of them, however, has dropped down. We're also focusing them down with our various Way Watchers, as we want to fire into the big old units rather than the smaller Black Orcs below, such that we don't have to risk killing off a ton of our own units with friendly fire. And it does look to be pretty darn effective. Giant here is down to about 10% of its HP and will get brought down by the Waystalkers. It looks like the Waystalkers have already brought down one of the Arachnaroks out there. Giants will fall shortly. Another Arachnarok about to fall as well. Okay, guys, Way Watchers, please stop missing. Oh, but at least they're quite good at this. And looks like they brought down another big old rogue idol as well. Black Orcs still in the fight, and several of the big old units in the fight as well, but the enemy numbers are starting to drop. Bounce power shifts about 90% in our favor. And the enemy's morale is probably shaken, having seen all of its Arachnaroks be destroyed, having seen all of its giants routed, and with only one rogue idol left to their name. It looks like the Black Orcs will rout, and the battle will be ours. Fairly quickly as well, on 1 minute and 53 seconds, and it'll probably take about 10 seconds before we got into contact with the enemy. Daith and his Wildwood Rangers and Wardens absolutely ripped the enemy apart. Tons and tons of damage on these guys after all. Very nice. Alright, and down will go the last of the Rogue Idol. We also did manage to use all 3 of our Glade captains to sort of work in concert together with each other. All 3 of them were attacking those Rogue Idols, and I forgot to check what their stats are when they use all their abilities, but they have the Heroic Killing Blow, so plus 60% on top of their 659 weapon strength when they activate it, plus Sword of Anti-Heroes, and on top of that they had something else, I believe. Pretty sure they did anyway. Well, either way, they do a lot of damage. They go over 1,000 weapon strength when they use all of their abilities at the same time. Colossal Strike, I believe, was the other thing, that anti-large ability. Anyway, down go all of those guys. Looks like we were also able to chase them down. Next one should be, well, it should go just as well or probably easier since we'll ambush them. Alright, very nice and tremendously effective. By the looks of it, the Vanguard deployment on our entire blob of Wildwood Rangers and Wardens allowed us to bypass the threat of the Doom Divers, which, well, weren't able to fire fast enough to prevent us from engaging in combat, plus the very high damage dealing and anti-large and armor piercing on all the Rangers and Wardens means that the Rogue Idols, the Savage Giants, and Arachnarok Spiders aren't nearly as much of a threat to them as they are to the Eternal Guard. Plus, damn do the Way Watchers, even with only 4 units in the army, assassinate things quickly. I mean, look at their damage, 31k, 19k, 24k, 27k, vastly outdoing most of the Rangers and Wardens and just targeting those single entities down. Couple volleys, and each time some big crashes to the ground. Anyway, well done to Daith, 11k on Daith as well, and his Glade captains did fairly well as well. Also like that we kept Daith on his eagle together with his captains. Makes sense. Anyway, we'll abduct the captives and then we'll do one more fight with this guy. Enemy killed in battle. Sure, faction destroyed. Faction's about to be back. Not gonna wait the turn. We're just going to try and ambush this one because it's coming in next turn, so it should still be a big army. But I want it to be a different type of battle, so not another field battle and hopefully an ambush battle. You, my friend, go into melee more than you stay in range, so let's get your weapon strength. Obviously, you're not going to hit as hard on the eagle as you do on your dragon, or on a dragon, but, you know, still worth it. A Violent Delights for you. Colossal Strike for you. And Violent Delights for you, into Colossal Strike shortly, hopefully, and then Strathought here you need Arcane Conduit. Could also max out Regrowth and Earthblood, but I think we're gonna be okay. And Daith has, after all, done well. And we're up 1,300,000 gold. Pretty darn solid. And what do we have in terms of ambush? Honestly, it's not that crazy. They still do have 6 big old single entities and a pile of gobos this time, and not piles of black orcs, or at least not as many. And we got our settlement garrison. Well, they have no chance, but nonetheless, I wanted to see one ambush with Daith's army so as to not repeat the same battle. Daith, go again. Ooh, looks like a lot of Night Goblin archers this time around. This is not a place they want to be. Wildwood Rangers and Wardens hit them from both sides. They're going to mince those poor gobos so quick. And as we saw in the last battle, the Waystalkers, or Way Watchers rather, are very good at doing the same thing to those big old units, already bringing down the first of their Rogue Idols. Alright, how long did that take? 30 seconds to bring down a Rogue Idol, pretty solid, and the second one will probably lose its HP very quickly. Looks like all of the gobos are out, all of the Black Orcs are routing as well. Our Lord Daith is going after the Goblin Great Shaman as well, and by the looks of it, only the big boys will remain. Yeah, that, well, it's an ambush. Ambushes are always quick, but damn was that quick. Even Orion has got to be impressed with this. This is an Orion's army kind of timing in terms of how quickly this ambush succeeds. Alrighty, beautiful. Love to see it when those big old monsters go down, though it looks like they failed to kill too many of our units at all. And just a matter of running the enemy down now, and this ritual is ours. Alright, maybe I should have waited after all, because damn, they got crushed, absolutely crushed in that ambush. Perhaps hardly surprising, considering that this army is a lot more devastatingly strong than it may appear at first glance. The Wildwood Wardens, for example, have 102 armor-piercing weapon strength on a 40-unit unit, and that's pretty darn solid. And the 4 Wardens, plus the Wardens of Sithrall, were holding off the giant single entities, while the Wildwood Rangers ripped into the enemy Black Orcs and infantry, generally speaking, which is kind of the opposite of what they're both for, I guess, because we got anti-large on these and area attacks on these, but it worked quite well, because I guess the Wildwood Wardens have a lot of HP, or a lot more HP, because of their smaller model numbers, so it's not as easy for them to die due to their Terogidal and Savage Giant and Ragnarok Spider attacks, as the Rangers do, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, well done to Daith and this entire army. We, with that, complete the ritual of Gloomwood. Forest of Gloom, whatever, close enough. Complete the ritual of the Forest of Gloom. Of course, we have to wait for 6 more turns, but of course, once again, I will do that between the episodes, so we're gonna get another time skip and skip to the next ritual, which is gonna be... what do we have left? We have Jungles of Qian, and we have the Sacred Pools. One of those. And honestly, it doesn't really matter which one. One recovery time, -2 for all characters faction mind. Good for tech thieves. What does this give us? This gives us Forest Spirit Upkeep. And immunity, Chaos Corruption, Chaos Waste Attrition. Once again, it doesn't really matter. I'll pick one and then we'll deal with that and the... well, we'll deal with that this episode, and then we'll deal with the other and the last battle next episode. Yeah. Alright, anyway. Here comes the time skip. And we're back, but not to the next ritual, perhaps as expected. A little bit of a detour for one of the other hardest battles available to us, and obviously since it's difficult to find one of these for Orion, it's Nagashizzar with all the rats there, and should be a pretty fun fight. Pyrrhic victory, medium casualties according to this. I don't know if it'll be as difficult as those fights against the 6 Tomb King stacks, but hey, give the rats a chance. They've surprised every faction in the game, I'm sure. Damn, they move fast, camera couldn't catch up. Anyway, here we go. Nagashizzar is about to meet the antlers of this buck force. Looks like we will charge into the first enemy army, and by the looks of it, there's a very solid chance we'll be able to obliterate it before the 1 minute and 30 seconds of the reinforcements are up. There are a few heavier units here, mutant rat ogres, that are going to be a little bit tougher to bring down, but oh man. Looks like the antlers while the antlers go higher than the mutant rat ogres, and it looks like the buck almost stands face to face with the mutant rat ogre. In fact, it does stand face to face with the mutant rat ogre. Lovely. Once again, very impressed with with those great stags. Alright, and speaking of the great stags, it looks like they've completely overrun this first army. Granted, the first army isn't going to be as strong as the other armies are, so it does make sense that it collapsed very quickly, but it's still nice to see. It does look like there is still a Hell Pit Abomination here, Ariel trying to destroy it. while Orion chases down the enemy lord, and it does look like Ariel will succeed at that with a little bit of help from arrow fire from the hawks above. We'll await the reinforcements and back our army off, and allowing the enemy reinforcements to actually get onto the battlefield rather than destroying them here. Ooh, this would have been a very nice target for a Dwellers Below, but we're not going to do that. We want to allow the fight to happen, allow all of those rats to stream onto the battlefield, and, well, try to hold back the charge. But Orion's army is the Wild Hunt in its true form, and we've got crazy amounts of bonuses to all of our cap. Weapon strength 170, and that's with area attacks as well. 165 charge, 77 melee attack. Very, very solid. Gonna get a few of those arrows of Kurnos into the enemy Doom Wheel. The Doom Wheels are still a threat to Stag Knights and Wild Riders in particular, who are a little bit more fragile. Especially with those Warp Lightning, shots. Oh, does look like the enemy Vanguard will arrive and will shatter pretty much immediately upon coming into contact with the Great Stag Knights, but you know what, fair enough. Orion starting to make his way forward, ignoring a pile of the Wolf Rats and charging the enemy Doom Wheel. Doom Wheel will waver upon being sighted by Orion, and will attempt to escape only to get surrounded by the Buckaroos. And it'll break and rush off the field. Does look like a few of our units will lead the pack this time around, accidentally getting away from the rest of our army and charging through the line of enemies. Ariel will move forward, and both Ariel and Orion will cast at the same time the super-powered Awakening of the Wood from Ariel, as well as the Hounds of Kurnos. King and Queen in the Woods are working their spells together into the center of the enemy formation, though we're not dropping a Dwellers Below. Honestly, kind of hard to see what's going on because of the sort of dappled light that we got going on through the canopy. But suffice it to say, rats are being sent flying and losing all their HP to the charges of our units. We waited a little bit until we were able to get the enemy Warlock Engineer off field, or at the very least broken, so that it couldn't use its Howling Warp Gale, and then we land all of our Hawk Riders into those Plague Claw catapults in the background. Orion has found the enemy Lord. The bounce power shifts about 90% in our favor, and those poor rats just had no chance. Sure, there were a lot of them, and I do mean a lot of them, but they just don't have the mass to hold back the charges of all of our units. And without the ability to stop our charges, we were able to essentially move through the entirety of the enemy army, run through them, trample them, and destroy them, and win the day that way. Lovely. With that, the battle's ours. Okay, some Plague Monks are still in the fight. And gotta kill the Unbreakable Plague Monks to a rat, but I don't imagine that'll take too long. In fact, probably them being knocked around and getting short invincibility frames is what's keeping them around a teensy bit longer. Ariel exploding some of those clan rats, and not in a good way. As they try to run, how did she do? 143 kills, 17k damage? Decent little bit. Probably mostly from her spell work. Anyway, with that, the battle for Nagashizzar is ours. I'm sure a few of the enemy units escaped, but not enough to be concerned with. A heroic battle, or a heroic victory at that, considering the auto-resolve said this was going to be, I believe, a Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhic, it was not. Alright, beautiful, beautiful, and completely necessary. Ryan managing to get 329 kills while hunting lords and single entities, pretty solid. Surprisingly little damage on Ariel, though granted she was healing everybody. But considering she got that Soul Stealer off and Awakening in the Woods and such into the middle of the Skaven blob, I would have expected a little bit more, but still decent. We've got, damn, 735 kills and 72k damage, nearly 73 on the Wild Hunters of Kurnos, outdoing the Lost Sylvan Knights, and by the looks of it, all the Great Stag Knights. As for the Wild Riders, it looks like just barely, just barely, 36 damage ahead were the Buckaroos. Hooves of Justice not far behind, a few bucks in a score are so, well, also did quite a bit of damage as well. Very, very close. And surprisingly, Surprisingly, the Hawks didn't do as much damage this time around, but to be fair, we did send them into the back line to essentially chase enemies down rather than soften up targets, as we normally might because of that bloody howling warp gale, which we had to be wary of. Anyway, we'll abduct the captives and we should be able to auto-resolve the remnants or the remains of whatever is in Nagashizzar in a couple of seconds. And, okay, no, not Recruiter Nath, where are we here? When we capture this, we don't have a special building here, unfortunately, but I am curious to see if it'll give us that 10%. Close victory. Really? No, I don't think so. Let's see if Nagashizzar counts as a special place. And Talisman of Preservation, sure. Seed it. And it surprisingly does not, meaning we've taken Nagashizzar, we destroyed the enemy faction, and I guess we're just going to abandon them. Outpost lost with somebody, but I guess at this point it hardly matters. Anyway, forest invasion imminent indeed. We got 2 forest invasions coming in for Luren to deal with. As usual, we'll deal with one in ambush and one in not ambush. So, Luren, it's your show now, my friend. Let's go for... What are we missing here? Are we missing anything for your troops? I don't think we are. You have pretty much everything that you need, so we could give you more personal buffs. I guess we do have Tempered Rigor already, and considering you're the only one who's fighting in melee generally, it's pretty valuable. We could get another Prey of Anathrema on you, though, and I think that's probably going to be more valuable as well, so we'll do that. And Glade Captain, you have 4 points on you, and to be fair, you're also fighting in melee, but you don't have Prey of Anathrema as an option for you, so I guess we're just going to make you harder hitting in said melee fights. I could still give you reload time so that you can occasionally do a little bit of damage. Oh, 1 more point. My bad. Alright, Waste Stalkers. We have pick them off. Let's get... Well, actually, Cleanse the Forest is not useful in this army at all. These guys do occasionally run out of ammunition, however, so I'm thinking Bottomless Quiver may actually be better than Piercing Shots. And Bottomless Quiver for you, rather. We have Sabotage maxed out, and go for Piercing Shots now. And the same thing for you. Bottomless Quiver. Lovely. Oh, Spell Singer, I forgot about you. How could I do that? One... With the forest is maxed out, we should use Transformation of Kadana in every fight, so we'll go for Earthing, Magical Reserves, and into Arcane Conduit. Oh. Curse of Anra here is actually quite useful as well because it slows the enemies down. You know what? Let's go 2 for Curse of Anra here instead, and we'll still get Earthing, but then into Arcane Conduit. Like so. Alright, Luren, you've got yourself a fight, my friend. Let's see what we can ambush here. As we move towards the end of the Ritual of the Jungles of Qian, and Pyrrhic Victory Meteor. Oh, wow, okay. Well, that's a heck of an army. That's a lot of Lords of Change. That's going to be a lot of pink and blue fires that are going to... They're going to hurt. We have no spell resistance in this army at all. Huh. And of course the Burning Chariots as well. Oh, wow, this is going to be interesting. I wonder if we can pull it off. Let's find out. Alright, here we go. Let's see how an ambush against the forces of Tzeentch works out for us. I would imagine getting ambushed must lose you Tzeentch's favor, mustn't it? Like... Tzeentch must be very much insulted if one of his minions gets ambushed by another army. Anyway, we're going to start the Battle of those Arrows of Kurnos, smashing one of the enemy burning chariots of Tzeentch, taking pretty much all of its HP. We also see the Herald of Tzeentch having taken heavy damage, as all 3 of our Waste Stalkers are firing all the way from back there with their pretty solid 1.1k weapon strength, which they will use to assassinate the enemy lord, which I'm actually fairly impressed with. Enemy will march towards us with its soul grinders, who are suffering under the ministrations from those swift shiver shards. And of course the Waste Stalkers as well. And I don't think you're going to be able to throw a single javelin at that rate, and no, the poor thing will melt away. We do send our eagles forth in order to absorb some of the enemy spell fire. Burning chariots attempt to make their way toward us only to melt. Yeah, you know what? It looks like this works just as well against the forces of Tzeentch as it did in the against the ogres from when this army destroyed the entirety of the disciples of the Maw, just like this, and it's just as effective. And this is why we didn't build more than a single all-ranged army like this, because this is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, and very few armies have any kind of chance whatsoever. And you also got to remember that this entire army has Vanguard deployment, so even if we were against an army that was, I don't know, nothing but artillery, we could just Vanguard deploy to their sides or behind them and still obliterate them before they could do anything. This is also what makes Wood Elf armies generally pretty darn disgusting. Oh, look, a Burning Chariot. I was about to say survive, but by the time I had to finish trying to say survived, it had no longer survived. Anyway, this is the type of thing that makes Wood Elf armies absolutely disgusting. We could have just used cheap Deepwood Scouts and put, like, I don't know, 20 of those armies out there and defeated every single army that the AI could throw at us. It would have been boring, but it would have been effective. Anyway, decisive victory. Alright, well, at least in ambush, that's pretty horrifyingly effective. I figured they'd be able to get off a few more spells, and they did get some off, but against our summoned eagles, unfortunately for them, so well done to Luren's army. We'll see what happens when we fight the same type of army in a field battle, as that's what we'll save this one for, especially since I imagine we can't reach it this turn. Yeah, we can't even reach this little guy this turn, so that's fine. You, sit here. Will this army only spawn, or will it move, I wonder? You know what, go as close to it as you can, and then we'll, I guess we'll see. Did I move the wrong way? Well, either way. I think we're out of time, essentially, and I'm gonna call the episode here. There's a little bit of admin to take care of between the episodes, I think, so... On the other hand, I could just ignore the admin. It's not like there's all that many turns left. I already moved Orion and stuff. You know what, I'll just end the turn here and let's see these guys spawn. Maybe this way we can at least finish off this particular ritual this episode and kind of leave only one ritual remaining for the last step. I've been trying to keep an eye on our borders and, yeah, see, this is what I wanted to avoid. Keep an eye on our borders, raise some stuff, keep those ruin barriers up and running with just piles and piles of auto-resolves, which obviously aren't very interesting to actually watch. And I'm just going to ignore them this turn in the hopes that we can fight that other fight. I believe they'll try to head towards us or something. I mean, we haven't really given them a chance to move around. Malekith wants peace, that's obviously not going to happen. And hey, look at that, Alethanar's actually advancing now that we did 99.9% of his job for him and prevented him from dying. And essentially surrounded him with our own territories plus ruins. Alright, what the heck is this? Oh. That result better not damage us. Okay, 9 losses. I imagine that should still recover, though, so we'll be fine. Alright. Trickster Cult discovered again for Toberstar. It just doesn't stop happening. Tech Thieves still getting wounded on occasion, but it hardly matters. At this point, we have all the main techs, and we have all the good techs out of these ones as well. We have Vigor Loss Reduction, 50% for all characters. Speed for characters, melee and missile. Vanguard Deployment. We have the Charge and Speed for a rank 7 and above. Casualty or Punishment Rate. A few buffs when in foreign territory, and Winds of Magic Power Reserve, or Winds of Magic Spell Cost, minus 20%. There's probably a few other things that we could potentially use, but nothing really that would help us all that much in battle. I guess other than Nature's Guardians, which will probably be the last tech that we get through this campaign. Alright, and ally loses outpost, go 2. Did they betray us? Yeah, I guess they did. Ally loses outpost. Huh. And the Knights of Calidor betray... Well, that's tremendously rude. Okay, now how did the Knights of Calidor betray us? Now, I imagine that it's Tzeentch doing this. They do still have one territory left down here. But how do they do that to both Goldtooth and Imric at the same time? I have no idea. It doesn't really matter, but still odd. Still odd. I suppose is it a combination of Village and Kairos doing it at the same time? Still very irritating. But anyway, okay, you are definitely in range, and you have in your army more Lords of Change and more Soul Grinders. All right, and technology researched, sure. Forest invasion begins, another trickster cult destroy. Okay, that was the same one we saw earlier. Let's fight this. Level up and fight to finish off this ritual. You get one more in Fleet Finger. I mean, we are doing range damage in this particular army after all. And you, I guess, can get piercing shots for, well, more range damage. Oh, you're almost to level 25 for the hunt. Basically, nobody other than Orion's guy has reached this. Too hard to level them up. I mean, considering the map is conquered, we're on turn 125, and we could have ended the campaign on turn 50 by just fighting the in defense of the Oak or / doing the final ritual. We've just been going through turn after turn after turn doing those rituals. But and they've given us some pretty darn fun battles. So you, Luren. Oh, I forgot you. Is it gonna be too late? Yes, it's gonna be too late. But I guess that's okay. We'll fight this in the field and see how we do. Away we go again. All right, to battle and oh, that I couldn't even say the intro words before the first of the enemy soul grinders melted away. The ambush was obviously quite unfair. Oh my lord, look at that amount of arrow fire. The enemy lord just disappears in arrows. They're just ripped to bits by the sheer number of arrows hitting a single target. Looks like the enemies will fire back this time around, hitting our leading unit with a ton of blue and pink fires. However, unfortunately for the enemy, this was our summoned unit of Deepwood Scouts, as we do have that, I forget what it was called, Emerald Ring or Ring of something that allows us to summon a single one of those, meaning that unit has taken damage and none of the rest of our units have. Granted, with that unit destroyed, perhaps a few more spells will hit the rest of our line, like so. And, it does look... Oh, okay, no. I was about to say. There we go. A couple of our Sisters of the Thorn have taken a few hits now, and a few have died at this point. The enemy is drawing close, but we do stop them with Prey of Anathrema. Can't be having those Doom Knights land, but it does look like the enemy does have sufficient numbers of Lords of Change to at least get a few of them to touch down. We're gonna lift our Lord off and hold back a few of them as we back the rest of the army away and kite them. Granted, we could have just prevented any of them from landing by backing off as soon as they drew a little bit closer, but I wanted to give them at least a teensy bit of a chance here, because this army is the most unfair army we have. At least against Orion's army, ridiculously strong as it is, we are still forced to fight in melee. So if we encounter very hard-hitting melee units, and those with enough mass to hold back the charge, and like during that battle with the Tomb Kings where we simply got worn out by the sheer number of enemy units, the enemy at least has some chance to do damage. This army, yeah, not so much. And we could have probably made this army even more ridiculous by not even bothering to use the Swift Shiver Shards. Just fill it up with nothing but Way Watchers and maybe a couple more Way Stalkers, just, you know, to add to the obnoxiousness. Anyway, with that, the forces of Tzeentch are destroyed. Our army suffers a tiny bit of damage, but really not all that much to write home about for Tzeentch. Alright, there we go. Looks like the enemy didn't have much greater a chance against this army in a field battle than it did in an ambush battle. They did manage to get a few spells off, and the Soul Grinders managed to get a few of those magical javelins off as well. It does look like having the ability to summon the Deepwood Scouts in this particular army also did prove itself to be quite valuable. Anyway, since this is the last fight of this army, Vol's Deep Darkbark Legion Not So Long Bows, Consorts of Anathema, and while Hawkeyes of Drakidar have always been named, are the stars of the show for this particular army. We are going to... it does not matter at all. Alright, and with that, the ritual of the Griffinwood is complete, and there is only one ritual remaining, which means I'm gonna call this episode here, and the next episode will be the final episode of the campaign, wherein Loic's Hobo Army will do the last ritual that we have remaining over at the... okay, for the love of... okay. We'll do the last ritual we have remaining over at the Sacred Pools, and then we will pop the final battle at the Oak of Ages with Orion, which we've been waiting to do. Just gotta make sure to get Orion back there. What's the closest tree? Well, I'll figure it out between the episodes. Anyway, stay tuned for one more Orion up. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments below. All glory to the algorithm. And thanks for watching.